And we are live. Hi, everybody.
Oh,
Hi, Scott.
it is so good to be here Friday. It's Friday.
Fine. Yeah, Friday the
It
13th.
it is. You brought it up. I wasn't going to say that.
No, why
So
not? Are you superstitious?
I'm a little stitious.
Are
Yeah.
you?
Yeah, a little bit.
It's my dad and his wife. It is their 38th wedding anniversary today.
Wow.
38.
It's a lot
It's
of time.
and I was there, so it's not making me feel any younger right now. And I was not a toddler. Hey, listen, guys. Today we are going to dive into 6 reasons why your workers, your employees, are working for their paychecks and only for their paychecks. And we're going to teach you how to go beyond the paycheck and how to tap into engagement so that you can get better results. And I really am so thrilled to be partner up with one of my favorite humans on earth and on LinkedIn. And we've never met in person, but
No, we haven't.
that's just a matter of time. Jason Forehands in the house. Hello,
Hey,
Jason.
buddy.
Thank you for being here. Um, and at the end, stay tuned for the entire. We're gonna try our very best, and we're both veterans, so we should be good on time. But please do yourself a favor and stay tuned until the end because there's a big fat surprise for you
Yeah.
guys at
Yeah.
the end of this show.
Something special. I don't know if I've seen this. I can't say that I've seen it on another live cast, but an offering that I think is kind of unique.
I have not seen it, and truth be told, ladies and gentlemen, it is or it was my dear friend Scott's idea. I'm not taking credit for this one because I'll give credit when credit is due. So, Scott, you ready to rock and roll?
Yeah, absolutely.
Beautiful.
This topic is, having led many organizations, is so near and dear to my heart. This is what leaders are always trying to figure out how to do, how to
Absolutely.
keep everybody engaged and moving forward, right? I mean,
Absolutely.
and I'm not afraid to say, like, in the business world, yeah, this is money. This is money, right? You know, we're leaving money on the table when we don't have disengaged employees to the tune of trillions of dollars globally. So I think to kick this off, just briefly, we need to talk about the engagement landscape because some people know these stats and they've seen this maybe in something they've read. You know, this is Gallup's numbers from 23, but it is important to just ensure that everybody's got a level playing field here. Today's engagement landscape, when surveyed, and for a number of reasons, which we will go into a handful of them today. It's not all the reasons why people are disengaged, but it's a good portion of them. But when you look at this, about a third of employees today can say they feel actively engaged. And again, there's a variety of reasons. You know, they find their work meaningful, they feel connected to the team, the culture's awesome. You know,
Mhm.
they love coming to work. You know, they don't sit in their car in the parking lot, which I've seen some people do right before they clock in. Um, but and then I look at the very bottom here, the actively disengaged, that's around 16%.
It's a scary
Um,
number.
yeah. And
Yeah.
the definition's kind of crazy here, but I mean, this is stuff that people actually do to harm the company or the
Mm.
organization. I mean, it happens, and we probably know those people. You might have them in your organization, or you may have just gotten rid of them. Um, but I think the scarier one to me is the middle, like that,
I
right? Because
I completely agree with you.
you just don't know, and if you've never asked them, why not? And I
Mm.
hope that, I think through our discussion, I think we'll get there. I know we'll get there. Um, Ways that we can tackle some of this, because I think if you can get after these monster numbers here in the middle, you can really change the dynamics and the culture of your organization. So,
Absolutely. Absolutely. And you're right. For me too, the middle number is the scariest because
Yeah.
it is, as we can tell, more than half. And this is where the silent quitting happens. And this is where I'm going to do the bare minimum happens. And this is where, uh, you know, this is where your employees leave their best ideas in the parking lot.
Yeah. That's a good way
And
to put it.
that is
Yeah.
sad. That is sad.
Well, and we've all been there.
Yeah,
Like, this isn't to say
absolutely.
that it just happens to a certain kind of people. I've had roles where I'm like, I do not want to go into work.
Mm,
I despise it. Maybe it was a boss, maybe it was what I was doing, I've been there, and
mhm,
it just tears at you, and you want to go do your best, but you just don't feel like it because there's nothing to latch on to, or there's one or two things that I just can't seem to latch onto that are important to me. So,
mm.
um, I
And,
think we're
I was just gonna say earlier, you said, we've all seen these employees, sitting in their car until the last second where they have to get out, walk away, walk to the building and clock. I've seen people eat their lunch in their cars just to
yeah,
make sure that they would spend at least the least amount of time in that particular company as possible. So talk about just working for the paycheck, and that's what it looks like, and that's very, very dangerous. It's dangerous for the employee's mental health. It is
yeah,
dangerous for the organization. So a disengaged employee is extremely costly because you know that they're going to leave, and replacing an employee is extremely costly as well. And if they don't care enough about what they do, and I'm not putting the blame on the employee here, if the culture is bad and all that they're going to do is say, hey, listen, I'm going to walk in and I'm going to do the bare minimum in order not to get fired. Well, that's not a good company culture at all.
yeah.
So we're going to tap into 6 of the reasons people are disengaged from their work. And the first one is lack of purpose. Well, when it comes to lack of purpose, people, I want you to take a second and imagine that every single member of your team knows exactly why their work matters. Studies have shown that employees with a strong sense of purpose are 4 times more likely to be engaged employee. And guys, it's not about repeating over and over and over again the company's motto or the company's mission. It is about putting purpose into every task, every project. And when employees see the direct impact their work has and how they contribute in their special way, in with their unique abilities, magic happens. Productivity soars. Innovation flourishes. And what about, retention? What do you think it does with retention?
Mhm.
It's people want to know what they bring to the table. And listen, we all want to be special. We all want to feel special. We all want to contribute. It is part of the human nature. But here's where most leaders, because, leaders are not all created equal, where most leaders miss is purpose is like leadership, like communication, is not a one size fits all. It's not even a one size fits most. You have to be able to show the individuals how their needs and their purpose and their mission, what is the connection between that and the larger mission, so they can tap into their unique purpose. Because listen, guys, we are all at least a wee bit self-centered and self-involved, right? We all want to know, what is it that I bring to the table that nobody else does? And when you can align what the person wants as an individual to the mission, the grand scheme of things, well, you know, how would that work for you, Scott,
You know,
as a leader?
it's I just thought of this now. It's a story that some have heard out there, but there's a story of when President Kennedy, John F. Kennedy, was visiting NASA, and when we're trying to get to the moon, right? That he
Mm,
put that big, hairy, audacious goal out there. Let's get to the
yeah,
moon by the
yeah.
end of the decade.
He
And
had
he's
no idea how.
he doesn't have, yeah,
No.
but we've got a whole organization. How we're going to do this, and he happens to walk by the janitor who's sweeping the floor, and he introduces himself. He's there to say hi. He's the president. I mean, that's a nice thing for him to do. And he's like,
Mm-hmm.
"Hi, I'm John. What's your name?" And and I don't remember what his name was. And again, this story's been told a few times, but let's just call him Bill. Hi, I'm Bill. And he's like, "Well, what are you doing here, Bill?" He goes, "I'm putting a man on the moon." He's sweeping the floor, but he understands there's a greater mission at stake here. He's just part of a key member of this team. And the fact that he could articulate that, whether this story is true or not, I don't care. I
No,
think it
you're right.
expresses the point of, it doesn't matter what your role is. Do
No.
you feel connected to that purpose, to that big, hairy, audacious goal? Yeah, I think you're in a good spot as far as your mindset. And it takes work to get
Yes.
there, but it also takes a lot of work on the leader's behalf to ensure they're connecting with everybody.
And Scott, I'm sure you were a base commander, you were really high up in the ranks as a military person, and you and I have discussed this at length. Command, and you'd think that in the military it'd be all about command and control, and it wasn't
Mhm.
my experience. I don't know about
Yeah.
you, but it really wasn't my experience. And there are moments where command and control is absolutely necessary. For example, the building is on fire.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's not, can someone please, for the love of God, call 911? It's you, call 911 now. And it's not necessarily time to say, hello, how are you? And is your day going okay? And how's your mom? And how did your dog, recuperate from its surgery? No, it's command and control. But most of the time, it isn't appropriate, right? And I know that in the military, leaders get leadership training. And
Oh,
this is the perfect segue to this.
yeah.
Scott, for the love
This,
of God, take it away.
yeah, this is near and dear to my heart. And, you don't realize, sometimes we attend corporate training or 1 hour lunch and learns and this and that. And we come in either as a prisoner. Somebody in management told me I had to go to this course, and
Hmm,
that's the wrong mindset, but
true.
it happens. I can't, again, I'm not going to fault the employee necessarily for that, because there's something wrong in that environment where they feel like, I have to just go to this training. Um, there are folks who are just tourists who are just going to come in, walk around, take a look at the training, see what they like, and they'll walk away. And then there are those folks that are just they're sponges. Like, they're going to soak every bit, because they know there's something, a nugget in there, even if it's an hour and it's that 1 minute that they can turn into opportunity. And there's something interesting about that kind of employee, because I don't think it's all self-motivation. There's
Mm-mm.
something else at work there. There's culture. There's a leader who believes in them. There's something more. And I'm always interested to
Mm.
talk to those people, and like, why are you like this in this course right now? Because you've really come in with the right attitude. And again, I
Mm.
think of another conversation that I read somewhere, and it's between a senior leader and a manager, and the senior leader's worried about the budget. We don't have all this money for a training budget, and he's telling this manager, like, well, what if I give you all this money, we train them, and then they leave? They leave the company to go to somewhere else for more pay or whatever. But the manager comes back and says, well, what if we do nothing and they stay? Right? I mean, how awful is that to be in an organization where you don't even know your limits or how far you can be pushed, or the innate gifts that are in you, and through training and development, it's pulled out of you, and now you're doing what you do best, but even more effectively. It's not
Absolutely.
just to focus on what little Scotty Heathman's weak at. It's to grow
Mm.
me.
Mhm.
I didn't come into the Air Force as a lieutenant learning to fly airplanes, and they're like, "You're gonna lead a base tomorrow."
No.
It took 20 years to get there. And oh, by the way, I didn't even know if I was gonna stay in for 10. But the exposure to some of the leadership and education, and I've been through year-long programs, multi-year long programs. I've gotten advanced degrees, 3 masters that I never dreamed I would
Mm.
have. And every single one of those, um, I've been able to use in different facets of my job to make me highly effective. Um, and when there are areas like, you know what, I need to dive more into my emotional intelligence. What is that? I just remained curious about what it was. And next thing you know, I'm teaching it. And now I'm an emotional intelligence facilitator. And do I know it all? Nope. I still practice strategies. I still work on areas of my EQ. But it's sometimes the little things you just don't know when you step into a learning environment. And if you're brave enough to just keep your defenses, don't keep them all the way up. Be open to learning
Mm.
something at no matter what age, what level of position, or whether you think it's going to be really valuable or not. It may not be valuable tomorrow, but it may be valuable 5 years later, right? When you've been promoted,
Absolutely.
or
Absolutely.
you've moved an organization, and now you're getting more responsibility. So you just never know um, what can become of additional training and development. And it's, Daniel Pink talks a lot about this, that it's a driver of motivation, mastery of something. And so when you're not good at it, that's when things like imposter syndrome kick in, and anxiety, and indecisiveness, poor decision making, because you have to have these lived experiences, but you need to go through these educational experiences sometimes to hear somebody else's story. And you're like, I needed to hear that. Yeah, when we had a fire, we had a horrible time getting out of the building because we never trained to get out of the building during a fire.
Yeah.
Guess what we do in the military? We have training drills to get out of a burning building. And so I know people laugh at that. I
An
had fire.
extremely inconvenient time
Yeah.
too.
I mean, I've had fire extinguisher training every single year of
Yeah.
25 years of my career.
And CPR every year.
Yes. So you may think you don't need it until that one time where it's life or death.
Mm.
So yes, the things that you can do, um, I think companies should lean a little bit more through subsidized training programs, whether that's sending somebody to a course. I was fortunate enough to have leadership send me, to executive level courses for a week and just get away from the office. And
Mhm.
I tell you what, I came back, I would have done anything for my boss. I was so fired up for about
Yeah.
6 months,
And grateful.
and grateful.
Yeah.
And oh, by the way, I've met a whole nother network of people that were doing my job that I could talk to. And they're still in my network.
Yeah.
I think there's times we could again implement kind of a little bit of mastery sessions here and there, something simple like a lunch and learn. Just pick a topic. Nobody has to come up with slide decks and do all this. Look at what we're doing. This is simple,
This is a
right?
conversation.
Yeah. But I think we just, as leaders, you need to take control of that and have some fun, experiment with training.
And you know what? I would even dare to add, have the juniors teach the
Oh
old
yeah.
timers something.
Yeah.
Have a lunch and learn, and have the youngsters, the most junior person in the building, teach everybody else something, because there's something that this person knows that nobody else knows or masters as much as this
Yeah.
person. And then it's the same thing. Imagine how they're going to contribute to the team and the company once they know, once they've actually been given the opportunity to contribute
Yeah.
to, their highest standard,
That
right?
last one I actually did up at Fairchild Air Force Base in Spokane, Washington. I did a reverse mentoring session. I mean, I read about it from Jack Welch, famous former CEO of General Electric.
Mm-hmm.
And I had a bunch of young staff sergeants on a panel, and I kind of stood there as, sat next to them as Oprah, to provide a little bit of top cover. And we had about 100, 150 supervisors and leaders in the audience. And I just basically asked them questions like, feedback. Talk to me about feedback. What do you feel about that? Or, yeah, what do you feel about this? And they were very authentic and honest about their answers
Mm-hmm.
in front of all of these senior leaders. And I tell
Absolutely.
you what, when we were done after that hour, uh, everybody stood up and clapped, and everybody surrounded these four young staff sergeants who average age probably 22. And
Yeah.
they were so proud of them doing this. These supervisors learned a
Yes.
ton. I mean,
Absolutely.
it was wonderful.
Yeah.
It was a lot of fun. So,
Yeah. And it's the perfect segue to our next talking point, which is the lack of autonomy. Because guys, I'm going to ask you a question, and I'm going to actually wait in the comments to see if there are answers. Um so if everybody wants to be in control, it's a human need. If you're human, you kind of have a desire to control something in your life. So how much um autonomy, how much does it increase, um actually I should say decrease the burnout? If you leave, if you let, not leave, but let, if you let your employees be in charge of something in their daily life, so either a particular task, or how much do you think that decreases the chances of burnout? Scott, what do you think? Give me a number.
like if I'm leading them, how much does it reduce my personal burnout?
No, theirs.
Oh, theirs.
Yeah.
Um,
Thank you for reframing the question. I woke up with a French brain today, as I often do
yeah.
lately.
So if I'm given a task,
Yeah. And
you know,
let's say I'm your boss and I say,
yeah,
Scott, I need this done. I need it done by this day. And then I tag out. Obviously, I'm available if you need help or if you want to bounce idea, but I tag myself completely out and I let you do your thing. How much, by how much does it decrease your chance of burnout?
I'm just thinking I can see like different experiences I've had when a boss has
Uh-huh.
done that. It's probably reduced like a high number, like 80%, because I felt like I could just operate and not be micromanaged.
Yeah. Well, actually, the number is 43.
Okay,
It
I
when the
probably went too far.
employees feel, no, but I understood your 80%, and
It's a high
actually
level.
exactly. And in my case, it would be close to 100, to tell you the truth, because we're all, we don't all need the same amount of control.
That's true.
So, but employees who feel that they have a high level of autonomy, are 43% less likely to experience high levels of burnout. But you see, the challenge for a leader is to balance autonomy and accountability, right?
Mhm.
So it is to give your team or the individuals in your team the freedom without losing control of the goal, obviously, because you're still in charge of the overall thing that's going to be happening. So the secret to doing that, I call that my guided autonomy. So is the way you do that is you set clear expectations. The word here, ladies and gentlemen, the word here, the word of the day is clear expectations. And in order to set clear expectations, you have to validate what they understood, right? It's not about you saying, okay, I've used simple words. I spoke in their native tongue. No, it's about validating. Okay, so this is what I want you to do. Blah 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 blah. So what is it that you think I expect from you now? Right? So you validate so to make sure that what you said and what they understood are aligned. And after that, set clear expectations. And after that, allow the flexibility of execution. So I'm going to talk a little bit, just a little bit, about wives and dishwashers because it's my favorite analogy. So, as the woman of the house, I tend to perhaps once in a while, maybe want the dishwasher loaded in a particular way. So that's micromanagement. That's exactly what it is.
Yeah. Yeah.
In my experience, and hey, listen, I'm willing to be wrong, but in my experience, pretty much regardless of how the dishwasher is loaded, the dishes are going to come out clean. So, this is what the difference is between set clear goals. I want the dishes clean. That's my goal. And be flexible in the way that this happens. Well, honey, you get to load up the dishwasher because I cook. This is the deal in my relationship. If I cook, he cleans. If he cooks, I clean. So it's your time to load up the dishwasher. I'm sitting on the couch, my feet are up. I'm crocheting and watching Seinfeld, and I don't even look at how he's loading up the dishwasher. Same thing for your team members. You have to trust. And I want to come back for a second to what you just said about training, Scott, because if you actually did invest in your employees and start early, if you did invest, then you should trust that they're going to come up with a way to get things done.
Mm-hmm.
It might not be your way and might not be perfect, but if you keep on nagging at them, like the nagging wife and the dishwasher, maybe it's going to cost you a divorce.
Yeah.
Right? So you have to give them autonomy because that's how they take whatever they learned and they actually put in practice and they become good at it. And you need to start doing that early. And I remember you I'm putting you a little bit on the spot, Scott, but I remember you sharing a particular story where you gave a mandate to a junior officer and you actually had to go to your right hand people or that the next level lower than yours and say, hey, listen, when he asks you something, it is on my behalf. And leaving him to do whatever task. And I'd love for you to share that story if you would.
Well, it's certainly something that happens quite a bit, especially leading a large organizations, whether that was when I led a flying squadron or a base. Um, because the leaders fall in these traps. We get in these roles. We certainly don't know everything. There's no book on any of these roles. Like there's lots of leadership books, but not my particular role and
No.
somebody else's, right?
Yeah.
But we tend to want to do it all because we want to either prove something to ourselves or our boss, or the team, or all the above. You will burn out. 100% you will burn out. And so I started learning from that and approaching that in a way where I would lay out kind of a 90-day plan and what was I going to delegate and therefore remain hands off. If I gave it to somebody, let's say a task to somebody who I felt like they didn't quite have all the training yet, maybe a little bit more inexperienced, I just followed up with check-ins and made
Mm.
sure that they felt they were in a good spot. And sometimes there were 5 minutes. Hey, I just wanted to drop in. I gave you a pretty daunting task. What's going on? How do you feel? You know, talk to me. Do you need more resources for this? You need more people. I say M&Ms, money and manpower. That seems to be what we all want in these organizations. Sometimes you got to do with what you can with what you got.
Absolutely.
And yeah, I loved watching these folks grow though, when you give them that task, because in a sense, I hope that they want to grow up to be me, like have my job someday, not be Scot
Mhm.
Heathman, but I want them to be wing commanders someday. And,
Absolutely.
so you need to model to your junior employees, your subordinates here, what does effective leadership look like? And
Mhm.
every time I empowered employees and gave them a little bit more autonomy, yeah, they found ways to get through things that we've been baffled by for 10, 15 years, or
Mhm.
we've just been stuck with well, this is the way we've always done it. Well, I tell you something, we didn't have AI 20 years ago 25 years ago when I started in the Air Force. Look what you can do now,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So I think it's just important to understand what are the capabilities of your employees here a little bit more. Give them something and let them run. Let them make a mistake, 'cause
Yes.
and let them learn from it.
Exactly. And it's the perfect segue to this.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Um, maybe I should ask this question up front. How many people like feedback? Like, they're comfortable with their boss coming to them
Oh,
and
I don't
giving
have a
them
boss.
on the spot. Well, yeah, I don't haven't have a boss anymore, but we're both in that same boat. But we probably do it internally. And I
Mhm.
know you and I well enough that we do go seek feedback when we need it from others.
Absolutely.
But there's a lot of people out there, leaders out there, they don't want feedback. They don't want anything to hurt whatever facade of reputation that they've put on, their armor that they put around them. It can be fearful at times. It can be scary. It can be an arrow to my pride a bit. There are times when
Ego.
I don't like that, right? Yeah,
Ego, ego, ego,
and
ego.
I've said this to you, the ego is not always our amigo.
Oh,
I've heard
goodness.
that
It
from a friend of mine. Yeah.
rarely is.
And I love that phrase because, our voices in our head talk every time we get feedback or critiqued or,
Mhm.
hey, have you thought about doing this? And I didn't really ask your opinion, but, it's a little bit of a shot to our pride, right?
Yeah.
Um,
But in leadership, if you're gonna be a great leader, you have to listen, I don't wanna sound like I'm giving ego a bad rap because egos are necessary.
no,
That's
and
the
it's always
bottom
going to be
line.
there.
Exactly. And they are necessary, but an ego is so that you don't jump in front of a moving bus. That's what its purpose is. So, if you wanna be a great leader, your ego should never be riding shotgun. It
Mhm.
should be on the back seat. And if your ego is in charge of who you are, well, not only are you never going to be a great leader, but chances are you're not a great human being either.
Mhm.
You have to listen. Emotions are great and they're important. Egos are important. I don't want to. I think ego has a bad rap already. I don't need to destroy it more than it's already been massacred. It just can't ride shotgun. It
Yeah.
can't. You have to leave it on the back seat. And I have a story in regards to feedback because when I was just a private, I was 17 years old. I was cocky as shit. I knew it all. And I got a new sergeant. And this sergeant was 35, maybe 36. And she was the sweetest lady I had ever met. She still is to this day. I'm still friends with her. And when she got to the squadron, she had been warned about Private Fortin. And she saw something in me and she promoted me within a year. She promoted me to corporal. And one day I walked in her office and she could tell I had been working with her for about 3-4 months, and she could tell I had a critique. And she said, "Close the door." So I closed the door and I sat down. And she said, "I'm going to tell you something." I said, "Okay, Sergeant. Yes, I'm listening." She said, "Whatever you are about to tell me, or whatever it is that you're not daring to share with me right now, because I'm your boss, I want you to know you have complete amnesty. As long as you're polite, as long as you respect the human and the rank, you can tell me anything." And I ended up critiquing something she had done. And she said, "You know what? Okay,
Mhm.
I'll be careful from now on." So the reason I'm sharing this story is because feedback has to work both ways.
Oh, yeah.
The
Two-way
best
street.
and fastest way to get trust is to give it. So as a leader, you have to trust your employees that perhaps they are better in a better position to tell you what kind of leader you are than your own self-awareness, because we all suck at self-awareness. We all think we're great at it, we're not. Um, so give feedback, extremely important, but be willing to listen to it, is all I wanted to say about that.
And I think a lot of leaders don't realize how many of their employees really do want the feedback. And it's about 50%. It's like 43% of employees are looking for feedback. So today, almost half your organization, if you're a leader or manager, is looking for some form of feedback. And,
Absolutely.
again, it doesn't have to be a formal sit down
No,
feedback session that a lot of organizations do, or annual appraisal time, or whatever. You
yes.
should be giving feedback before you get to the
Uh,
annual
I hope
appraisal,
so. Yeah.
right?
Their
Um,
evaluation should not be a surprise.
it should never be a surprise.
Never. Never.
And if it is, shame on you, leader.
Yes,
Um,
absolutely.
and you actually, I would hope HR would say, leader, you can't do
No,
anything and harm to this employee because you haven't fulfilled your requirement.
I
You, you
absolutely
know, and
wholeheartedly agree with you.
and these are tough conversations. And I've talked to people about this conversations, and I've worked with great teams that like to talk about how to have a conversation. And one real quick framework that I have always found very, very useful is to have a BAR conversation, and it's an acronym, BAR. Um, so the way you will hold this is, the B is being very specific about the behavior. So let's say it's a critiquing feedback session. They did something and you want to help them improve on that. Well, be specific. about the behavior.
Mm.
Like maybe it was a bad customer service they provided. What did they do? Don't just say, "Hey, you did a bad job. I want you to do better." Or here's the one that everybody hears all the time. "Hey, you're doing great. Just keep doing what you're doing." What does that mean? I don't, I had a boss that actually said that to me, and he had a couple stars on his shoulder. And I said, "Sir, that's not good enough." Here's the phrase we use in the military to get back to what you said earlier. We say the phrase with all due respect, and then we're allowed to say whatever we want after that. Like it's like that's
Exactly.
the unwritten rule, right? But I
Yeah.
said, all due respect, sir, I would like specifically, what did I do well? Don't just tell
Mm.
me to keep doing what I'm doing. Like what? I do
Mhm.
1,000 things in a day.
Mhm.
So be specific about the behavior. B is behavior. A is the effect. What kind of effect did that behavior that you saw, or maybe somebody reported, what did it have on the organization, the team, the effort? So behavior, effect, and then here's the best one, a request. Give them a request. I'd like you to do it this way for a week, see if it makes a difference. And if it doesn't, just come back to me and we'll have another discussion. Or, hey, try leaving the house 10 minutes early. That way you never show up late for the
Mm.
rest of the week. Okay. Let's just
Mhm.
try that. But in the request, I think what's really important for leadership is um, be on their side, have their back. Don't just critique and walk away and put your back towards them. They want to be seen. They want to feel like um, yeah, they already might feel disappointed, almost like a child, and their parent just kind of went after them. That can kind of hurt again the engagement piece
Mm.
we're talking about. There is a
Mhm.
mental, psychological side to these things, and
Mm-mm.
words and things like that matter. You don't have to coddle them, but they do need to understand that you're still in their corner, you know, even if they have a massive failure. But I also use feedback for positive things. It's too easy to feedback negative,
Yeah.
and there's an interesting ratio that you almost need to provide 5 times uh, encouragement of positive encouragement to one oh crap moment. So a
Yeah.
5-to-1 ratio of positive to critiquing, that's the ratio.
Yeah.
And too often we're like probably 3 negatives to like 1 positive. And
Oh,
like our brains, our limbic brains, they're just going to remember the negative.
absolutely.
It's that's where the biggest emotion
Yeah.
appears from. So but what we're getting in here is the art of communication and where it breaks down, and we're trying
Mm.
to talk about areas where you can enhance that. And I know you've got a lot of experience and you've seen it, not only in your military career but other careers here where words matter, communication matters, right?
Abso-freaking-lutely. Communication is the most important skill to have as a leader, and I will dare to say it's the most important communication to have in life. Because if you can't communicate, your idea can be this high quality idea. If you can only communicate it to this level of communication, this is what people will see. Even though your idea is here or even higher, I'm trying to stay in the camera here, but you are, unfortunately, and I do find that it's unfortunate, you're only as good as you can communicate, because that's how people understand what you're doing and how you're doing it and why you're doing it. And 86, I'm all into stats today. 86% of employees say that bad communication is the main cause of workplace failures. And I'm going to throw another number at you all. Out of companies of 100 employees, how much is miscommunication costing per year? Well, the average is $420 $420,000. That's how much it's costing you.
It's a monster number.
I
Yeah.
know, and it's not just about the money. You and everybody in
Yeah.
the audience know that. I'm throwing numbers at you because I want people to understand how costly it actually is, but it's more than that. Poor communication weakens trust, it stifles innovation, and it drives your best talent out the door. And again, if I want to throw numbers at you, replacing an employee is 1.5 to 2 times their annual salary. So take how much, you make in a year and multiply that by 2, and that's how much it's going to cost you to replace somebody. So, what do I want to say about communication? It's very, very, very simple. It's not about you.
When I had organizations that I could tell that they were at odds with each other, and again, I'm just making these up, but let's say it's the clinic is at odds with the flying squadron. It's interesting when I would bring the leaders in, because I could see it happening, when two organizations are just kind of they're doing the silent treatment to each other. It's just like they're at home. I mean,
It's
organizations operate the
juvenile.
same. Yeah. And I'm not afraid to bring them in though. And because more often than not, and like you said, you put out the numbers here, it's probably a communication problem. And, one
9
side or
times out of
both are
10.
just not
Yeah.
opening up enough and
Yep.
talking about each other's needs a little bit more. But in one instance, I will say that we had two organizations. One was the dental squadron and one was the flying squadron. They were a little bit button heads at time, and this goes back to like purpose again, because the dental squadron, they perform a service for the Air Force Base and for those particular flyers. They maintain their readiness so that they can go out and do their job. If you got a problem with your mouth and your teeth, you're not going anywhere. You're going to be grounded. But there were problems with getting appointments and lengths of time waiting. And what it was interesting is these two leaders of those two organizations, they took control of this, and they did a kind of like an exchange. So the dental squadron spent a half a day with the flying squadron. They went into the hangar, they climbed all over the airplanes, they got photos, they got a mission brief about what they do, how often they're on the road. They talked to the maintenance team, they talked to all the life support people, all the gear that they wear. You would have thought those folks were like at Disney World, right? And because they're out of their dental office and they're in a new environment and they're
Yeah.
having fun.
It's fun. Yeah.
Well, and then at a period of time that passed, the flying squadron spent the half a day at the dental squadron, and they got to work the front desk. They got to, go in with patients. They also got to go into some of the labs where we print 3D, mouth, teeth and everything else, and, do some of the high-end surgery and how all the cleaning that's required. I mean, that's a big deal. Especially, oh, by the way, we were doing this all under COVID. So,
Of course.
the mission still got to get done.
Yeah.
But after that exchange, their relationship completely changed.
Of course.
Because
Of course.
I think they reached that key thing, that level of empathy, understanding, so they could learn how to communicate better with each other.
Yeah.
Here's where that EQ comes back. Emotional intelligence is really about communication.
Yes, it is.
Internally and externally with others, because you're trying to get to a point where you can really let that relationship bloom. And now, boy, they're humming. They don't have any problems, right? But I just thought that was I was very proud of those two leaders that did that. And then other leaders of organizations said, maybe we should do an exchange with that team over there. And I highly recommend to companies, you've got different divisions. How many times do middle management go down to the shop floor and actually watch something being assembled? And
Yeah.
oh, by the way, now you can communicate better up
Exactly.
and down
Yeah.
and have less problems, less drama, which costs you money.
Absolutely. And you know what? Whenever I work with a team or a team leader, and I usually do both, and that's the first thing that I do about communication. And that's what I said earlier before you shared your story, which by the way, thank you for sharing that story because it was extremely relevant. It's we all think that communication is about what we want to say.
Mhm.
It's not. It's not about you, it's about the other person. So if the other person understands better when you're concise and straight to the point, and when you always need to, almost need to speak in bullet points, then it is your job to adapt your communication to their desire or
Yeah.
to their preference,
Or their
and
learning
vice
style. Yeah.
exactly, and vice versa. And when you learn to teach, you learn to teach for people who are visual, people who learn better by listening, people who need to feel things either in their body or in feelings. So when you're communicating, and that's why I say that communication is the most important, not only in leadership but in life. I mean, if I take my partner in the way that he understands the world, well, if I want something from him, I better adapt my communication style to his because I want something. But it's the same thing as a leader. It doesn't matter that you're signing their paycheck every 2 weeks. That does not matter. If you adapt yourself to the way that they understand the world, they're going to say, "Oh, is that all you want? Oh, beautiful. Okay." And I think that one of the things that leaders, one of the very, very common mistake that I see with the leaders that I work with is they won't shut the hell up. Shut up. Shut up. And I mean, listen, guys in the audience, if you know me, if you've ever spoken to me, I'm a talker.
Me too.
But when,
Yeah.
yeah, you and I, but conversation between you and I, it's supposed to
Yeah.
last 15 minutes, it lasts an hour. And that's okay because we're both like that. But if you come to me and you have a restricted amount of time and we need to exchange on a specific subject, we're going to get to the point, right? So as leaders, your job is not to get the job done. Your job is to support the people who actually gets the job done. So your job is to set clear expectations, say how things are supposed to be going, or and be, for the love of God, please be open to innovation, be open. But your job is to support the people.
Yeah.
Give them room to talk. Shut the hell up. It's not about you, it's about them. You're the leader. Your job is to support them. Your job is to provide them with the everything that we've said so far, with the great communication, with the expectation, with the everything. Your job is to be there for them. And
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 I
again, it is
yeah.
the oh, I was just gonna say it's a nice segue, but if you have something to add
No,
on the subject,
no,
I'm gonna let you.
I'm reading your mind, Isabel. Like when you're observing and listening to your people, it's now time to point out and recognize what they're doing for the organization, right? And recognizing the hard work they're putting in, the effort they're putting in,
Absolutely.
right? And a lot of companies and organizations do this in a variety of ways, and I'm glad to see when that's baked into the culture already that hey, this team has a quarterly awards program, a employee of the month program. That's not just a plaque on a wall, but there's more to it, right?
Mhm.
But I think sometimes it just becomes, oh gosh, we got to do this. It's end of the quarter. I got to recognize somebody. This is something that again, it should be part of culture. It should. Yes, I think you should bake it into your strategy just so
Yes.
that you don't forget to do it.
Absolutely.
But I think when you're a leader walking around, observing, listening, and you see something amazing, you go back to your desk and you write a note and leave it on their desk someday and let them know. I think we try to overcomplicate these things and we're like, oh,
Yes.
I got to give them a piece of lucite to put on their desk or some sort of
Absolutely.
tchotchke, you know? And it's not about that.
Mm.
It was funny. In 2013, we had a government shutdown here in the United States, and I was a squadron commander at the time. And we have a quarterly awards program, and we would give out, like a nice like wood gift that was engraved with their. I mean, it was a pretty nice gift. They were
Mhm.
standard gifts though every quarter, and they're very unique to our unit. Well, I wasn't allowed to purchase anything because the government was shut down, so basically
Mm.
budgets are frozen. I can't
Mhm.
go spend new dollars.
Mhm.
And so for 2 weeks, we're kind of operating, and they said, you can recognize people, but you can't give them anything, you know. And I kind of stressed over that. I'm like, man, I want to bring them up front and shake their hand and give them this thing. And my chief came into me. He's the senior enlisted member of the organization, and he said, "Hey, sir," it literally did start with, "Hey, sir, with all due respect, uh, nobody wants that shit." And I kind of laughed and I said, "Well, okay, you need to explain this to me, my friend." So perfect example. We're kind of going into all of these now. He's giving me feedback. He's giving me communication. This is where we're getting to it now. And he said, "You know what people want?" He goes, "Because I've talked to a lot of folks in the squadron. They just want a day off.
I was just gonna say.
Could you give them a day off or 2 days off, give them a pass?" And I'm like, "Do you really think they're gonna like this?" He goes, "I think we should try it. I think we should try it." And,
Absolutely.
and we did, and they loved it. And I was blown away. And we did that for 3 quarters. Unbeknownst to me, my leadership failed to tell me after the first quarter we did that I was allowed to buy stuff. So we had done it for 3 quarters of a year, and nobody complained about it. They loved, they worked hard for these quarterly awards, and they were doing amazing stuff. But after I knew I could buy stuff, I didn't buy stuff.
No.
I just
You
kept it
you
the way it was.
you kept giving a day off.
Yeah, because you know what? They got to do what they wanted to do and choose what they wanted to choose and spend it with family or go hiking
Exactly.
or, and for the yearly awards, we gave them as many days off as we could, like in a pass, because
Yeah, 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 yeah,
we
yeah.
already had paid days off. So,
Yeah.
we had to kind of be careful on some of that stuff. But
Yeah.
I had so many people that came up to me and said, that was the greatest gift. I got to spend it with my kids. I got to go to their school, and I was
Exactly.
crying. I was
Yeah.
crying. I was like,
Yeah.
I had no idea that's what they wanted, but it doesn't have to be complicated. Look around at the blank walls that you might have in your company and think about what your employees would think about themselves, about the organization, if you posterize them doing
Mm.
something great, and that's in the entryway. It's a poster of Mary, who works in HR, who's just been killing it, and she's been working hard. And you have a picture of her as, this is one of our superstars, in the lobby of your
Mm.
office.
Absolutely.
People
Yeah.
love to see
Absolutely.
that.
Yeah. And it goes back to recognition, and it goes back to
Yes.
knowing how they contribute to the organization. And listen, Scott, I did 10 years in the military. I threw away a bunch of plaques and trophies and keychains and
Yeah.
wine glasses with the squadron logo that I no longer give a shit about. And not the squadron. Part of me will always be in the military, but the wine glass, I don't drink alcohol. I mean, so like I threw this away. And I don't that wasn't important then, and it's still not important. It's kind of the old way of doing things. But listen, we
We
have
got
2 minutes
we
left,
got the surprise here.
and we are exactly, and we want to be very respectful of your time, and we are so grateful. Guys, we didn't reply to your comments while we were live because there's nobody else but me running the back end of this show, but we will go and comment on your comments, and if you ask questions, we'll answer. And if you want to get a hold of us, well, click on our faces, and if you're not connected to us, please do so now. And I want to take 1 second right now to say thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you for being here. And if you enjoyed this show, please share it with the world. And that's it.
So
So,
here,
Scott.
here it is. We want to make this like a choose your own adventure for you. So think of this hour as kind of a preview of what we want to do for you or for anyone else out there that you think that might need this going into 2025. So if you advance the slide, what we've got is a QR code or a link here. It's going to take you to a survey. And so we've laid out 6 of these areas where you could dive in and improve employee engagement. We want to hear from you. What are your top 3? Of the 6 that we laid out, what would you, if you wanted to take a course on how to lead a team with more autonomy, how to improve communication, what Isabelle and I want to do for you is we're going to look at all the survey responses. We're going to take the top 3 that came through based on your responses, and we're going to build 3 courses in 2025. Like
affordable courses.
Affordable courses. Okay.
Not 7 months long.
No.
4 weeks.
Yeah. 3 to 4 weeks, an hour each week. But we're going to dive a lot deeper into that particular area that we talked about today. So again, that survey, it's got 7 questions, but the 3 choices you'll have near the beginning. And then there's just a couple questions about us. Did you enjoy this time? What else could we be doing for you? Any other comments? So please take the time, because we want to know what course we're building. We don't know. It's up to you.
It's up to you guys. And in the meantime, if you want to connect with us, this is how. So QR code in purple, you will guess that it's matching my hair, so it's mine. And QR code in black is, I was going to say it's matching Scott's hair, but not so much.
Yeah.
It's more conventional, and it is the QR code to reach Scott. And Scott, my friend, thank you so much. I had so much fun being live with you. This is our first experience and not our last. And people in the audience, thank you for joining us today. And we will create more. But in the meantime, hang on, let me go back up and go to the last. Go fill out the survey. Tell us how we did and tell us what kind of content, what kind of course you would like from us in 2025. In the meantime, have a happy holiday season. Happy New Year, and we'll catch you in 2025.
Happy holidays.
Bye, guys.